Is Manos, The Hands of Fate the worst film ever made? I don't fucking know. Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome to day 17 here on the 31 Days of Horror. I am your host Moon616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yeah, so after 16 reviews of, relatively newer horror films, I decided to take it all the way back to 1966 with the brand new release from Synapse Films. This is actually a film I've never seen before, oddly enough, and apparently it's the most watched episode on Mystery Science Theater 3000. Again, I have never seen this film. I've always heard about it, and it's always been dubbed to be one of the worst films ever made, if even the worst film ever made, which always has me intrigued. Every time I hear that a film falls into that category, it makes me want to see it more, because how bad could it actually be? Of course, this film's from 1966, and it's called Manos, The Hands of Fate. Really like the cover art that they used on this, actually. I was really surprised that Synapse Films did not have reversible cover art for this. That kind of took me back a little bit, but very cool. And I do like the fact that they actually put the Grindhouse, unrestored version on here too. So you can watch, the really Grindhouse, grimy looking version of the film too. So I will say the transfer actually is pretty good for, I did compare the restoration to the Grindhouse, and wow, they did a pretty good job on this actually. So. But getting into the premise of this one, basically follows a family, a father, a wife, and a young daughter. They're on a road trip. They get lost out in the desert. They abandon their car and they start to go find somewhere to stay. They come across this, this farmhouse, this kind of compound deal in the middle of the desert. It's very out there and secluded. And they come across this character named Torgo. He's the caretaker of this farm or this compound or whatever. And he basically doesn't really want to let them into this house. They plead with him. He gives in. He allows them to come into the house, where you get introduced to this character called the Master. Now, he is basically the head of this cult that resides at this compound. And, of course, the Master, he's got the Hands of Fate inside his cape there. And he's got, all these wives and stuff that are, around and things like that. But anyways, this cult, they worship a kind of like a devil god by the name of Manos. And now Manos has decided this family's fate, and Manos has decided that he wants them dead, so now they have to escape this compound and find their way to safety. So that is basically the premise of the film. Now, my thoughts on this one. Now, dubbed as one of the worst horror films of all time, I can't dispute that. This movie, technically speaking, is atrocious. It's atrociously made. We'll start with the specs of the film. First off, the cinematography in the film is very, very amateur. It's very, very poorly done. Shot one camera style. And there's just a lot of editing going on. They definitely filmed this film. I don't know what kind of camera they used, but they definitely weren't shooting long sequences because there's a lot of editing. Which brings me to the editing. The editing is horrible. The cues of editing in this film are absolutely atrocious. Mixed in with really bad kind of public domain, almost elevator music and stuff. The music that's in this film is off-putting. It doesn't fit the setting or the story at all. It kind of gives you this feel of just, wow, very, very amateur type filmmaking, but it just doesn't fit at all. It's very off-putting. It's very poorly done. The acting in the film is atrocious. It's really, really, the acting is terrible. The dialogue is so bad in this film too. But it's entertaining and funny though. The ADR, the audio track in this film, is very off too. Of course, we all know what that is. It's when, the dialogue doesn't match the movements of the mouth and stuff. And this one is just, it's all over the place. There's scenes where it's completely off. There's actually scenes in the film where people are talking and there's no audio coming out. It's kind of that type of deal. But the whole film is just, the ADR is so bad, mixed in with really poorly written dialogue, which kind of adds to the feel and the fun of the film, because the ADR is off, but the dialogue is shitty, and it just makes for a fun time. There's really no redeemable qualities to the film. It's really poorly done. There's no effects in the film. Like I said, the editing is atrocious, music's bad, the setting is pretty cheap. It's really cheap. But You know, the one thing about this film that really gets me is the main family in the film. Now, the dad is actually the writer/director of this film, and I believe the guy that plays the master was also the art director of the film. So these guys were like more involved in the film than you would imagine at first. And yeah, it's just, you know, it's two guys really trying to make a film good, and it just turned out to be really bad. That's why this film actually does work on an entertainment level. They didn't intend to make a bad film, they meant to make a good film, and it just turned out atrocious on all technical levels of filmmaking. It's very amateur, it's very poorly done, but I will say it's very entertaining. The decisions made by the family in this film are just atrocious. It's just really bad writing. It's actually quite annoying. The mom is terrible. All she does is scream at the father. He's kind of mean. He makes bad choices. The daughter's voiceover in the film is obviously done by an adult. It's this type of thing. Like I said, you know, the master has all these wives. They start fighting at one point in the film, and it's so funny. The sequence of the fighting sequence is absolutely one of the funniest things I've seen, and they actually reused the footage a couple times in the film. There's a couple scenes that are even reused a couple times, so it's that type of filmmaking. This one only runs about 70 minutes. It's a really quick watch, to be honest, and I was entertained throughout the whole thing. Even though every aspect of filmmaking was atrocious, it was fun to watch. It was fun to watch because I just really wanted to see where it was going and how it ended up. And I will say I laughed so hard at the end of this film because the events leading up to what happens, you know, at the compound is so funny because it's so unrealistic and ridiculous. These characters are morons and they're just idiots, and everything that's happening in this film is just so stupid, but it's fun. It's really, really fun. If I had to rate this film on a technical aspect, you know, I would probably give it about a 1.5 out of 10. It's really poorly made. And like I said, the music is just the weirdest thing I've ever heard, you know, in a film like this. You know, if it had better music, it probably would have had a better feel to it, and it would have been a little more, you know, better to watch, but music was terrible. So 1.5 out of 10. On an entertainment level, I give it like a 7.5. It was pretty fun, and like I said, it doesn't have a run long time, so it's a quick watch, and it's fun. It's fun, I have to say, man. That even the master was pretty funny. Like some of the monologues that he gives in this film, like I said, most of the dialogue in the film is really atrocious, but he does give a couple monologues that is pretty entertaining and funny, and it doesn't really mean anything because he's just spewing all this kind of nonsense, but you don't really know where it's coming from because you don't really know exactly what Manos is. And so I thought that was pretty funny, but you know, he has a total kick-ass mustache too, if you can see that. But I did like the cape. You know, the hands of fate inside the cape and stuff was pretty fun. But you know, all technical aspects of the film atrocious. You know, 7.5 on an entertainment level. I'm gonna give this film like a 3 out of like overall probably like a 3.5 out of 10. You know, and I usually don't recommend people check out films that I rate under 5, but this one you gotta see because it's so bad. It's really fun to watch. This is one of those films that you throw in with your buddies, you have some beers, and you just kind of snicker at it because it's that type of film. You know, mad kudos to the guys that tried to make a good film. It turned out atrocious, but you know, mad props. So Manos, Hands of Fate from 1966. Give it a shot. I will say the transfer is pretty good. I've never seen any other prints. Like I said, it's the first time watch for me, oddly enough. And but I did compare it to the Grindhouse, and I was like, wow, they did a pretty good job restoring this film. So, and it is in full screen though, because it was shot like that. So, yeah. So 3.5 out of 10. Watch at your own risk, but I do recommend it. It's pretty damn cool, and I am going to be checking out some of the features on here, like the audio commentary. I've got to check out the audio commentary on this, and I don't even watch a lot of commentaries because it's time consuming. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for day 17 here. Check you guys in day 18. Peace out, homies. Baby, 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 baby. This film is so good.